welcome to Chatting with Janine. I'm your host and State Representative Janine Nodder. So last week I had Representative Eric Eastman on. He's the representative from Nashua, who's also an actor and a director, but we're in politics, so that's mostly what we talked about. So he may be popping up on someone else's show to talk about his actual acting career, since we didn't really get to it. So this week I have another colleague on. This is Representative James Splain from the same row that I sit in the State House, so welcome.
Welcome.
And so James, what town do you represent?
I represent Deerfield, Candia, and Nottingham.
Nottingham. Well, you're on Janine Nodder's show. That's kind of like being in Nottingham.
It is. Actually, it feels more like we're sitting in our session, because except you're normally on the other side of me, and we have Democrats in front of us and behind us.
I know, you never saw this side of me before, huh?
No.
Because you're always on that side.
Totally different side of you.
Yeah. We sit in a block, just to explain, of 5 Republicans in a row. It's very nice, because we're all mixed in, and we've got liberals all around us, and you've got to sit next to a couple of Democrats on the other side.
I've got Democrats directly to the left of me, which is where they belong.
Where they belong, yes.
Where they belong. But the way that they've got us staggered, it also means that we've got Democrats right in front of us and Democrats right behind us.
But that young kid in front of us, Sweeney?
Yeah.
I can't think of his first name. He's a Republican, because we can see their buttons while they're voting.
He is, and I believe he's also a friend of Yvonne Dean Bailey's, who's from my float district.
She's a new
Another
representative.
young, she won the special election to replace Brian Dobson when he went to work for Ginta.
Oh, okay.
And so,
yep, I remember that. Yeah.
She's finishing off. Brian never actually started his term, so her special election was right at the beginning of the term. So she's really finishing off a term that she didn't have to run for, but this will be her first real election coming up that she'll have to run for re-election.
Well, my first term, we had a supermajority Republicans, and there were a lot of dads like you in the House serving. Some were single dads working, trying to work full time. They used up all of their vacation, all of their sick days to serve in the House. And a lot of them didn't come back because it was just too much of a sacrifice.
It's really tough.
And if you look at a picture of the House, it's mostly retired people, and that's why.
That's one of the things we've been dinged on quite a lot from some of the media and other states, where they say, we've got an ancient representative body.
And they're
yes,
not talking about the House, yeah.
Second largest one, but it is a lot of older people because, and in fact, I was told for many years when I was interested in running that I couldn't do it till I was retired because you just won't have the time. But things got to the point where I just said, I've got to do it. I'll make the time. If you want it bad enough, you make the time for it. And it is tough working full time and still making time to be there and deal with all the critical stuff that's going on up there.
So this is coming to the end of your first term. How do your expectations line up with the reality of serving in the House?
We had a trial by fire. Seriously, coming into that House with the turmoil that we had on Organization Day and everything.
I've never talked about it on my show, so the viewers probably don't even know. Most of them probably don't even know what happened.
The chaos was far beyond anything that I had ever been prepared for. And,
none of us were.
And the chaos has calmed a bit, but it still continues now. I have hopes that next term will be a little different, that things will have smoothed out.
But the same people, if you have the same people there, and if they don't like the speaker, they can do the same thing and make a deal with the Democrats, and the Democrats plus a handful of Republicans is the majority, then it's going to be the same thing. So it's amazing that we got any Republican bills passed this year.
It is. I thought coming into this that we were just going to have a stagnant year and basically not get anything done because there was so much controversy. But
we did all come together on the budget the first year, which is one of the most important things that the House does, if not the most important thing the House does. But there were meetings between the conservative caucus, where we don't have, whatever you want to call them, the ones that are very conservative. They met with the leadership and said, look, we're only going to vote with you on your budget if you include the following. So that's what happened with that.
Yep. And, I got taken to task by at least one newspaper after we went to finally pass the budget 3 months after the governor vetoed it for saying at the well the governor could have had her money 3 months ago because this is the same exact budget we gave her 3 months ago, and now we're here voting on it again.
Right.
But
now she gets the credit for
there
it.
was there was no lie in that. That was the same exact budget we'd given her. We worked for 3 months on a continuing resolution to keep the government running while we tried to come to terms, and she ended up passing the same budget that she could have had 3 months earlier. So we could have been fighting this heroin problem a lot sooner. We could have been dealing with all these other issues sooner, but politics got in the way of it, and that budget stalled 3 months.
Right. So I titled today's show Good, Bad, and Ugly Bills in the House. So we just finished up that marathon session where 2 12-hour days in a row. I don't know about you, but I was exhausted the next day.
By the end of the second day, I had people telling me on the House floor, "Boy, you don't look very good." And I'm just tired. It's been 2 long days.
I talked to Representative Barbara Biggie, and she serves, I think she's in Amherst, Milford, that area. She said she couldn't even get up on Friday morning, and I said, well, I went to the gym, but I came home and it was nice out. I went outside, I was going to read. I fell asleep in my backyard. I woke up an hour later. I like, gosh, I'm tired.
Had to work.
It's mentally draining. And Tony Pellegrino of Merrimack, we carpooled last week, and he said it's mentally draining. It is.
It's very mentally draining. It's 2 12-hour days there were equivalent to a week worth of work. It really was. And
you said you worked.
And I had to get up on Friday morning and get into work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't have a break.
Wow. So there we go. When I said sacrifice to serve in the House when you're not retired, really.
Saturday felt really good coming because I finally got a chance to have some downtime.
Right.
But yeah, it was. Those were a rough 2 days, but as you were saying, good, bad, ugly bills. One of the good bills we got through was the one I was telling you about, the suppressor bill.
So are you the prime sponsor of the suppressor bill?
I'm not. John Burt is.
Oh, we're in the John Burt Society. Yes, our friend John Burt.
But John Burt was working with me because I'm on the Fish and Game Committee.
Right.
And so he was working with me to get it through the Fish and Game Committee. And I put in quite a lot of work in that committee to get this bill through the committee and out of committee ought to pass, and then to get it passed on the House floor. So when it went into the Senate, you probably noticed that I was missing from session on Thursday morning for a while. Well,
Couple hours.
It was a couple of hours. Maybe an
hour
hour and a half. But I was down in the Senate chambers to testify for the committee from the Senate that was hearing the bill. And I was real happy to see that come out of that committee 4-0 in favor.
So what is a suppressor bill? Some people might not know.
Well, the suppressor bill is a bill that John put forward and we advocated for that would allow hunters to put a suppressor on their rifles when they're hunting. And there was a bunch of anti-hunters that were against it because they said it's not fair to the game. But to be honest, you're taking one shot. What this whole thing came down to, and this is the whole argument, it's about hunters' health. Because one gunshot is loud enough that it causes irreparable hearing damage. The repeated gunshots of many years of hunting cause hunters to lose hearing. Causes hunting dogs to lose hearing even faster because they have a much more sensitive hearing, and it does more damage each time a gunshot goes off.
That's why there's no dogs on The Walking Dead.
That could be. But the suppressor basically doesn't silence a gun. All of that's myth. That's TV myth. What it does is it brings the volume down from about 180 decibels down to the threshold of 120, 130 decibels where you're not causing irreparable hearing damage. So it's bringing it from a loud explosion down to about the lawnmower engine or motorcycle volume.
I was going to ask, give me an example.
A loud
motorcycle.
You know what's
loud is the blender. I have a parrot. You've heard about my parrot.
Yep.
My parrot does not like it when I turn on the blender. She's afraid of most of the appliances. Anytime I reach for something, she knows what's going to happen. The noise is coming, and she gets upset.
Well, we're joining now 38 other states. There's 38 other states that have already adopted this bill and allowed hunters to use suppressors. Buying a suppressor is still a very complicated thing. You have to go through Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms clearance. That takes a $200 tax stamp you pay for right away. you have to put in your application with the BATF, and before you do that, you have to actually put the money down for the suppressor. If you go to the gun store, they'll make you pay up front for the suppressor 100%, which is about $1,000, sometimes more. And the process of getting cleared can take, they say, as little as 3 months, but I've never seen that, and the stores have told me it's stretching out between 9 and 12 months now. The entire time you're in that process, the store's just holding your money, interest-free, and you're waiting. And if you get denied, the store gives you your money back, but if you get approved, you get your suppressor. After all of that work, nobody's going to be using these suppressors to go out and jack deer or poach deer. The suppressors are being used by responsible hunters, ones that are willing to make that investment to make sure that their children that they take out in the woods, and we did hear from one person in the Senate who's a grandfather, he said, and he was wearing 2 hearing aids. He had actually undergone such hearing damage over the years of shooting and hunting that his audiologist had told him no more guns, and he invested in a suppressor, but he could only use it on the range because they are legal in New Hampshire to use on the gun range or in your yard or what have you. You just can't hunt with it. He said, I won't take my grandson out in the woods and teach him to hunt like I really want to, and I've had to give up hunting myself unless this bill passes because I don't want my grandson to end up with the same hearing damage that I have.
Wow.
And I've had the
Which
same.
senator is it?
It wasn't a senator. It was just a gentleman who moved
okay.
to New Hampshire. He originally grew up in Vermont, and he moved to New Hampshire, and he'd lived in New Hampshire his whole life, hunting and shooting, and found as he got older that his hearing loss was decreasing rapidly. And they said, well, it was all the damage you did when you were younger. You don't notice it right away. It's one of those things where it just, every time you get that damage from the gunshot, it adds a little more onto it, and it's a cumulative effect.
I blame loud music in the 80s on my hearing.
You know, that can be up in the same dangerous area for the volume of decibels, but 180 decibels, 160 decibels from a gunshot, those ranges are really dangerous for the ears. And, you know, on the range you can wear hearing protection, but when you're hunting, you need all your senses. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. And that one gunshot does cause damage. And I have kids, and I don't want, if I have a chance to pass this bill so that my kids have a chance to make an investment and preserve their hearing, I'm gonna do that, and that's one of the reasons I've been a proponent of it. You might ask why 38 other states have joined. They also are taking the lead from, if you look at Europe and the UK, where we usually picture the strictest gun laws in the world, they mandate suppressors for hunting. And one of the reasons the UK ended up in the position where they mandate the suppressors for hunting now is because they had a class action lawsuit that all the sportsmen and hunters in the UK brought against the Crown and the government. And they said the technology is out there for us to be protected from the hearing damage, but the government is prohibiting us from using the technology, so therefore the government is indirectly inflicting that damage on us directly. And they won their lawsuit. So the government had to agree at that point to let them use suppressors, and they said, if we're going to agree to let you use it because it's a health situation, we actually ought to mandate that they be used when hunting. And they found that not only does it protect the hearing, it makes for better neighbors because they're not hearing gunshots go off all the time. One of the things I like to akin it to is if you knew that seatbelts existed as a technology, but the government told you you can't wear one.
Yeah, that's a good analogy there.
Yeah.
Do you think the governor will sign the bill?
That's questionable. We've got a good amount of Democrat support behind this as well because it is a health issue. If she looks at it from the health issue, I don't think she should have a problem, especially with 38 other states. But politics can get in the way of anything good. So
you obviously watched The Walking Dead because you caught my joke about the dogs. You know, we always wonder, like, how did the zombies sneak up on people? Don't they hear them? Well, now it makes sense. With the guns going off, their hearing is shot, and that's how the zombies come up and bite them.
You know, that show would be a lot...
I don't know why I watch it. It's gory, it's gross, I end up doing this, but I watch it. Yeah. That's part of the